What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico.
Join the stars of the Ancient Aliens TV show. David Childress will guide you through the evidence left behind and the secrets being guarded from mankind. Have artifacts been left on other planets? Mike Barrow will take you to other worlds and explore the truth about the secret space program and the lies NASA tries to hide. What does the UK government really know about UFOs? Former Ministry of Defense UFO investigator Nick Pope will present the real X-Files. Join Grant Cameron, who will provide detailed disclosure plans the world governments are working to. Or will mankind make contact first through our collective consciousness? One of the world's leading female researchers, Paula Harris, will share incredible testimonies from leading whistleblowers on ET contact and what's next for our world. It's time to believe and raise consciousness. Join like-minded souls on Saturday, June 23, 2018 for Awakening, Bowler's Exhibition Centre, Manchester, UK. Awakening. What do you believe?
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. Now for the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined with my guest, Dr. Jude Currivan. Now Jude is a cosmologist, planetary healer, futurist author, and previously one of the most senior businesswomen in the UK. Now, having grown up as the daughter of a coal miner in the north of England, she has since journeyed to nearly 70 countries around the world, and for the last nearly 20 years has lived in the sacred landscapes of Avebury in the UK. Now, she has experienced multidimensional realities since early childhood, and has worked with the wisdom keepers, both incarnate and discarnate, of many traditions. Now, Jude integrates leading-edge science research into consciousness and universal wisdom teachings in a holistic whole world view. Now, this underpins her work aimed at enabling transformational and emergent resolutions to our collective planetary issues, raising awareness and empowering fundamental change and sustainable solutions to global problems. Now, she holds a Ph.D. in archaeology from the University of Reading and a master's degree in physics from Oxford University, specialising in cosmology and quantum physics. Jude Currivan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a real pleasure, and thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on to speak about the Cosmic Hologram. So this is going to be a deep diving conversation. If I don't understand some of the terminology you're using, I'm going to have to butt in and just say I'm not getting it. There may be others out there that may feel the same way as well. Okay. So let's just go straight into it then.
Sure.
Why do you do this type of research? What's driving you to do the work you're doing right now?
Well, it's not just the work I'm doing right now. This has really been a sort of a lifetime's journey from when I was about 4 years old. I'm just very curious about the nature of reality. You know, I was asking my mum why when I was, from when I could begin to talk, really. So my whole life path and life journey has been a quest to understand the nature of reality, and I've done it from scientific perspectives, experiential perspectives, working with many wisdom teachers across many traditions. So it's been a very much a journey of ever deeper understanding, and the book, The Cosmic Hologram, is my latest and deepest perspective of what that reality is about.
And how do peers take your work as well? Because you're one foot into the consciousness spirituality and the other foot in the science. Do others that are in your realms, do they like that? I mean, is that acceptable?
Well, tough if it's not. I mean, for me, I'm very fortunate because I have no vested interests. I have nobody telling me I can't follow where the evidence leads. So my whole life has been exactly that, to follow the evidence wherever it leads. And so what I've done in this book is really to show the latest evidence across many different fields of scientific study that is converging actually on a perspective that universal spiritual teachings have come from for millennia, which is that reality is unified.
Do you think there could be in a not too distant future maybe a bridge between science and spirituality?
I'm hoping that this book helps that bridge, because I've been wanting to write this book essentially for a long time, because I experience all that we call reality as, innately unified. But the evidence really wasn't there, and quantum physics doesn't go far enough. It's only been in really the last few years that there has been a whole emerging new way by science of looking at the nature of reality, of physical reality. And that's now coming forward to help provide this bridge, and that's what the book's all about.
How at peace are you about dying in one sense and knowing that you're going to continue on, but in what form? So how at peace are you with it, and where do you think you're going to be, right here or somewhere else?
I don't know. I think that's down to my choice. I mean, in terms of the actual dying, it doesn't hold any fears for me at all, and I've communicated with folks who have passed over, so I'm very comfortable with that through all my experiences and explorations into the nature of consciousness. I suppose what does frighten me is pain.
Right, yes.
I don't particularly like pain, but the actual dying itself holds no fears whatsoever.
Would you be surprised when you cross over, or I'm using a human word there that comes from the spiritual side of things, but when... We'll use that word for now, crossing over it, but it may not be that. But when you have moved from this to somewhere else, would you be surprised if everything we thought we knew was just the tip of the iceberg, and it's actually much bigger, and there was an illusion there all the time to what it really was?
It wouldn't surprise me as such, although I would say that having had my first, if you like, multidimensional experience when I was 4 years old, and having had many out-of-body experiences and telepathic and precognitive and many supernormal experiences, together with communicating with consciousness and intelligences that are discarnate, that are not of the physical plane. I have walked between worlds very widely for a very long time, but I'm not saying that is that is all there is at all. It'll be a new adventure. Well, whatever it is.
What if that wasn't what it was, and that was just an illusion, just to make you think it was that way? But actually, it's something as real as this. It's not fluffy cows and white harps. And I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying
No, I'm not.
when we dream, or when we go to, I've had a near-death experience and it felt very dreamy in a sense. But then others, we keep getting told it's more real than this experience. Well, this experience is more real than that experience. So if we are in some sort of illusion, and the experience of where we go is an illusion, so we've created the illusion of where you go to. I'm saying maybe that get past the illusion of what you think it is. It may be even more as real as this. So what we've both perceived as a bit hairy-fairy or dreamy, or not as solid sometimes, maybe it is more solid than that, but just at this point of reference we can't see that or experience it like that.
I think there's a number of things with that, most of which I would very much agree with from my own experience. First of all, that I think it's a question of what we call reality. I mean, what we call physical reality, actually, as a physicist, I know is incredibly ephemeral. When we drill down to subatomic levels, what we call solidity is just not. It's 99.12 nines and a percentage point, no thingness. And, as I've written in the book, information, which is essentially consciousness, is as real. So what we call reality for me is consciousness. Consciousness isn't what we have, it's what we and the whole world are. I feel uncomfortable with your use of the word illusion and reality, because there are some perspectives that say physical reality is an illusion. For me, it's the illusion of separation that's the problem. And I stub my toe or whatever, there is a sort of experience sense of physical reality. And when I have walked between worlds over 60 years, there's a very profound experiential aspect to that. The other thing is, one of the things that I've asked all through my life is that I can gain information from those adventures, as it were, or altered states of consciousness that can be verified. So it's not just my imagination. I can actually bring back information that's helpful to share.
Of course, up to the point where the illusion wants to elude you of what it really is, and the information up to the point you bring it through, I channel as well, and I'm able to bring in through teaching information up to the point of the level of where I feel comfortable bringing it through. I wonder what's beyond our comfort zone and what's just beyond what we think is the top of it sometimes. But then again, if this was some sort of virtual reality or something else, which we have free will within, I mean, but people like yourselves, you're diving deep to try to look at this, aren't you? I use the word VR there, virtual reality. Has that ever come across your sort of desk before, that this may be something that we think it's not? More than just an illusion, but actually something virtual, reality-wise?
I think of course it has. Of course it has. And I work with a lot of folks on the West Coast where the technologists there are actually, supposing that all we call reality is a simulation, which is akin to VR. I think that's dangerous, actually. And the reason I think it's dangerous is it essentially still, in their perspectives at any rate, seems to exclude the empowerment of consciousness. And you mentioned free will. And the danger, in my view, of perceiving this as a simulation or a VR is that, especially for young people, there could be this sense of, oh, it's just a game. If I don't like this game, I can just press the reset button. And I have heard of suicides that have effectively done that. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful of the terminology we use and the analogies we use, because you channel. So whatever, as I do, so whatever you perceive as reality, I would suggest to you that you still see yourself as some sort of microcosmic, self-aware being.
Of course.
Consciousness, but that isn't the way that some of this terminology is leading others to conclude.
No, that's a good point. I always try to say in my shows, that person that's suffering from this, or that person over there that's suffering from that, depression, suicide, whatever it may be, whatever we're going to talk about here, I'd like to think that it's going to be grounded enough to come back to the mundane things, because they are what we're here, coping with right now. As more as I do this work, I think it does. I think diving deep is okay, because I've come to my own understanding that not diving deep sometimes is the perfect excuse not to dive deep, right? So it's a bit of a paradox a little bit. But yes, I totally agree with. No, I mean, what if it was our virtual reality? What if it was our own creation in a sense, not the virtual reality as we know it. I mean, because you hit me by a 2x4, I'm going to feel it, right? There are consequences, yeah? And I think it's so important to be here. I right now wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to hear that.
And I want people to feel the same as well, you know, that this is so important to see this through. Well, okay, we're going to be all over the place here, if that's okay.
Of course.
Now, because we've only got 51 minutes to work out the universe, right? So, right, yeah. Well, yeah. So you channel. You're comfortable with that word. That's amazing.
Not particularly.
Okay.
It suggests somehow that I'm an empty vessel. And I think sometimes people say, I channel, as if something that comes through us isn't part of us, and somehow not to take responsibility for that. So that's the only reason that I feel
it's a word that I'm going to use just to, you know, it's only a human word, but I hear you. I think that is one of the bad points of it, is we don't take responsibility because we say, well, that's coming through me and I've just allowed it to. But that is an aspect of you at some point, you coming through you, reminding you what you already knew at this.
But that's a subtlety that you're aware of and I'm aware of, but I also would suggest it's a subtlety that passes most people by. And when you use that word for most people, they sort of perceive it perhaps in a different way than you and I see it.
Well, we've explained it here and we've cleared it up a little bit of what we mean by that. So I think it's important just to what you're saying, most definitely. And I've had other people come on my show where they say, nah, they're not channeling. It's just the higher self coming through, and they're not lovable enough to give themselves the empowerment that was them all the time. Yeah. So there's that aspect to it as well. But I say, if that person's enjoying the way they're doing it, beautiful. Time to look at things differently, because it's not worked the way it has, or it has worked perfectly to get up to this point in a conversation, but the things need to be looked at a little bit differently now. It's spirituality 2.0 right now, most definitely. So you had visitations, you had experiences, you never told your parents about this. It's as they got older, did they get to find out what had happened to you as you were younger?
Well, my dad died when I was 10, so my mum brought us up.
Right.
And when my mum passed over, I was actually a very senior businesswoman.
Yes.
So she was very, very proud of me.
Yes.
But, you know, as someone who'd left school at 14 and scrubbed steps, she loved me unconditionally, whatever I would have done. Yes. I would have been very happy to go to her and say, Mum.
Yeah.
But it never really came up. We just loved each other unconditionally.
That's beautiful.
Without needing to have that conversation.
That's beautiful. And did you, not being personal here, but I'm going to ask, did you marry? Did you have a family?
Oh, I did, yeah, very much so.
Wonderful.
No, I haven't had a family, actually. I have inherited two wonderful children.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So with my husband.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And they're amazing, but I managed to avoid the nappy stage.
Lucky you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and how have they received your work, knowing the work that you do now?
Well, I think there's a sort of generality that most folks who do work, you're never a hero to your family, whatever work you do. Right,
yes.
And yeah, I'm very, very honoured and appreciative that they do love me and they are proud of me.
Beautiful.
And I think they do. It's more about who I am as a human being than what I do, to be honest.
Well, you're going against the grain a little bit in a nice way, in a lovable way, and I think that's I like that. Especially I mean, if I had chosen to be a scientist in this life or a physicist, I would have done exactly what you had done. I would have, in the end, have turned it on its head and said, let's look at this from a different perspective. Not an easy road to go down, I can imagine, right?
Well, it was an easy road to go down, because I actually began as, if you like, as a mystic, as someone who did experience multidimensional realities and walking between worlds. But then, very soon after I started this life journey, I was also very curious about, if that was the bigger picture, how did that bigger picture somehow become what we call physical reality. It's rather like the Sistine Chapel. You know, get the finger of God coming
Yes.
down and the finger of Adam coming.
Yes.
And between them, Michelangelo painted this amazing sort of lightning strike.
Yes.
So science was a great language amongst many other languages, but a consensual language that sort of offered a ground inquiry as well.
I just think that's beautiful what you're doing, and I'm so honoured to have you on. And we are going to get into your work. We're just tiptoeing across a few things right now. So when you channel, how is that? How are you? What are you bringing through? Is it a family member, or is it groups of guys, or is it just unnamed streams of consciousness energy?
All the above and many more. I mean, having done this, you know, since I was 4 years old, it becomes such a natural part of your experiences. I'd love to hear your experience, Kevin, as well. But for me, it's who I am. And one of the things I asked very early on is whatever communication that I was involved with, that it was communication. It wasn't a one-way street. It was, sometimes it is, but generally it's more of a communication. Secondly, that I didn't need to go into a trance, that I could actually do this. Thirdly, that as much as practicable and appropriate, that it could be verified, the information I was getting could be verified. Right. So what I've done over all these years is I've communicated with angelic beings, extraterrestrials, deities, elemental beings. My mum used to say I would speak with anybody, but she didn't quite know who I was speaking with.
So let me get this right. So as a physicist, and because the thing is, right, it doesn't matter who you are. We've all got this innate ability. Listen, we channel all the time. Let's change the word to an energetic exchange, right? In some respects, right? You could say that
I would say information.
Yeah, exchange. Information exchange. There's another great one. Receiver. Yeah. When we're intuitive feeling, when you get that intuitive feeling, that's the same. When you get the download, that's the same. The just that knowing I need to do this.
It's just different forms of information transfer. You know.
Exactly.
In that sense.
Exactly. So that's really interesting what you're doing. I'm actually doing a documentary at end of this year called "They Call Us Channelers," and I've got people that channel from all over the world. I should look at including you in that. That I really should. That would be so interesting. Obviously, you have then, as you channel with your framework of information that you have as someone that's done a master's in physics, I think, or was it physics you did your master's in? Yeah.
I did my master's in physics and my doctorate, my Ph.D. in archaeology, researching ancient cosmologies. So I actually describe myself as a cosmologist rather than a physicist.
Oh, sorry, right, cosmologist. Well, you know, but you've still got the physicist background there.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, you know, having that language and that information, I bet that allows you to bring in different types of information than other people could bring in, because you've got the framework for them to work with you on to bring in complex information.
Yeah, very much so. And that was one of the, I mean, I didn't do it for that reason, but that's one of the benefits of actually studying, you know, the physics and the metaphysics, but the physics of reality for all these years, because I'm very, very grounded in it, you know, on all scales, and not just that, but science and the language of science, not just physics, but across many, many different fields of study.
Okay. And where does, I mean, I've never liked this word too much, but I'm getting to be okay with it. Where does God fit into your work as well?
Well, for me, God is everything. Whether we call God God, whether we call God cosmic mind, as Einstein did, whether we call God Brahman or many other different terms across many different wisdom and spiritual traditions. For me, everything we call reality is consciousness, is cosmic mind exploring itself on many, many different levels.
So I could be consciousness in one of those books behind you, just experiencing what it's like to be a book, to be a...
Yeah. So I see everything. Or consciousness isn't something we have, as I say at the end of the Cosmic Hologram. It's what we and the whole world are.
You know, one of the biggest questions I used to ask myself as a kid, and I've asked myself again for this documentary I've started to make, which starts production real soon. what is at the end of the infinitive universe? If the universe is infinitive, if it's not infinitive and it's finite, well, if you went on and got to the end, what's beyond the end?
Well, the latest cosmological evidence is, and there are many threads of this evidence, is that our universe is finite and closed, so that it also exists and evolves as a unified entity, essentially going back to God, a finite thought form in the infinite and eternal mind of God. And that, of course, leads, well, okay, if our universe is finite, sort of an out breath, not from a big bang, but as a big breath.
Big breath.
One of many, but within an infinity, within an eternity that you've termed God.
Well, yeah. So if I had the means to go beyond our understanding of getting to the finite end, we can't conceptualize the end. We don't know what that would look like. Is that a wall that you walk through? Is it sphere so that you never find the end? It just goes round and round in one circle. What does the end look like? And why am I bothered about going through the end to find out what's beyond the other side?
Well, you keep using terminology that's very solid. Energy and matter and space and time. I mean, as I describe in the book, leading edge science is moving beyond those 20th century science of energy, matter, and space time to realize that energy and matter and space and time themselves emerge as manifestations of consciousness. So essentially, to describe our universe, yes, as a finite thought form accords very much with many of the leading edge scientists, such as Max Planck and others, and John Archibald Wheeler and Einstein himself, as well as spiritual teachers of virtually all traditions. Beyond our finite universe, can we envisage infinity? I can't. Can we envisage eternity? I can't, not in this form. Occasionally what I will do is I will touch that perspective. I will be in that no-thingness, that numinosity, that all-oneness.
I mean, you can't imagine that, can you, going on forever? How did forever get there in the first place? What was beyond the breath?
Exactly, and it is just a breath of a universe within, a multiverse.
Yeah,
within a multiverse of universes, within an infinity of cosmic mind.
And then what's beyond that?
Well, if it's infinity by its very nature, there is no beyondness.
Well, what came before it, though?
Well, with eternity, there is no before. I mean, that's why as a human being, and when I was a kid, and I started looking at, I'm good with light years, I'm good with universes, I'm good with multiverses. But as a human, as a spiritual being having a human experience, even when I expand my awareness as widely as I do, and I'm sure you do, many, many others do, I still can't honestly say that I get infinity or get eternity. But by its very nature, there is no before or after.
But
there is no beyond.
Where did the space come from to create something that beyond imagination of infinitive? I mean, where did that? Was it just? Yeah, and most people don't even want to look at what the infinitive universe, and then they call themselves, that they're searching themselves, but they'll never look at that, will they? The infinitiveness of it.
No, but I guess for me, what's really important now, and you said this earlier, is about you're so happy to be here now, this incredible moment. You're so happy to be grounded. As I do, that we're spiritual beings having this human experience.
Yes.
But what I would say is for folks, who perhaps, why should they ask those beyond questions? But for me, what's really key is that the appearance of the physical world, its apparent solidity, the apparent separation between things,
yes.
The mainstream science that says it is all random and meaningless, and this duality-based perspective drives our behaviours. Our fragmented worldviews drive our dysfunctional behaviours that have got us into a pretty dire state.
It has, no, definitely. It has.
So for me, what's important is healing our fragmented worldview. And it's not about necessarily looking beyond our universe, but it is about realising that leading edge science is showing our universe is fundamentally interconnected. And that the appearance of duality, where, you know, how mind somehow arises from matter, is the wrong question, because mind is matter. Matter is mind. But that is crucial, because if we can heal that, then we can begin to realise that we're not separate, that we're unique, but we're not separate.
The only reason I'm banging on about it is because we haven't changed things that well. We have made some great changes. No, we have. But is the answer we're really looking for when we look at for a world where we are all coming from that perspective? Is it to look at the much deeper stuff? Are we looking at an illusion that's not allowing us to see the full picture because we've not been ready for it, or because we need to come to a greater imagination than what we've got to get there?
I think that's right, but I think again the word illusion can be dangerous because it suggests that somehow it doesn't matter.
Okay, and that's a good point. No, what I mean by the word illusion is something's being hidden from us. We've hidden it from ourselves before we came down here into these bodies. Now, why we hid it? Is it to have this experience, or have we hid it because it's the gem to our future, or to some next evolution of ourselves, to see something beyond the spiritual information that's out there right now? That's my kind of thing to this.
I think that's right. I mean, I use the analogy of an actor. You know, you have method actors that go into a part, like Daniel Day-Lewis, and they're completely immersed in that part. Great actor, just retired, great actor. But you know, when he goes into a part, he completely immerses himself in that part. You get other actors like Laurence Olivier, who always know they're an actor playing a part. And so for me, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I think in one way, we need to sort of have some level of amnesia. Otherwise, it would be very challenging to be present. And we know folks for whom it is. The problem is, I think, as a collective, we've immersed ourselves in the appearance of physicality and the appearance of separation. So I wouldn't say reality is illusory, but I would say the appearance of separation is illusory, and that's the danger.
How many times has the breath gone in and out? How many times has all these multitude of maybe infinite number of multiverses out there? I'm just saying, right? Who knows, right? But how many times has the breath gone in and gone out? And how many times have we all maybe repeated these same lives before?
Yeah, my experience of the universe is that first of all, nothing gets repeated, and secondly, nothing gets wasted. So my own experience, such as it is that the universe is joyous in its diversity and continuing to experience and learn. I guess the thing that I'm concerned about, though, and I'm very happy for us to have this conversation, but I do feel that we're at a critical point in human history at the moment.
Now, how many times have we got here before? How many times have we been at this critical point before? I mean, you know, we talk about multiple universes, but, you know, has anybody ever channeled the idea that we may have been down here in Groundhog Day before, and these lives may have been lived before as the universe has breathed in and breathed out, and we've been on a wheel of repeating some of these same patterns, and we've not got off the wheel yet. You know, we talk about this great illusionary new type of Atlantis lifestyle, you know, we're not getting there yet, are we? Right? So
No, but I don't find that question particularly interesting, because it's not something that we can necessarily test. It's not something that for me matters. What matters to me is what we're with now, and what we're with now is it a breakdown or breakthrough? So what choice do we make now as microcosmic beings,
absolutely, but and that question, you're right, it's not that interesting. But at the same time, if we don't ask these questions, then the denial of that question is to say that maybe it's not happened. And you know, what is it we're missing? What piece of the puzzle are we missing that we're not getting to the point where we're just a little bit more peaceful?
I agree completely. I mean, that's my whole work. My whole work is that is to share this understanding so that it empowers people to make different choices perhaps in their lives. I think, though, rather than ask that question, how many times have we been here and have we made different decisions, which at the moment with our current level of understanding we don't know. What we do know is we're here now, and what we do know here now is that science is finally catching up with universal spiritual traditions to give evidence that what we think of as being duality-based reality is just its appearance, that the fundamental nature of reality is unified, and that literally mind is matter, matter is mind. We are a thought form. Our universe is a thought form in the mind of God. We are microcosmic co-creators. So we're here and now. If we can understand that and begin to experience reality as unified, and eventually embody it, then for me that's that choice point that can transform everything.
Well, you did just mention there, about the ideas of multiverses, right? And we've been going on and talking as though that's a possibility, yeah? And if that is the case, what if there's a different version of me and you out there right now, just doing something a little bit different than what we're doing now? And the soul has split itself into an infinite number of versions, as there are an infinite number of universes, to have different experiences to get the most just even out of this point of time reference right now, let alone past or future lives, in the same variations of splitting off.
Well, first of all, I talk about the parallel universes and the many world interpretation of Everett. And I point out that it was put forward as a hypothesis because Everett and no one wanted to consider consciousness. And the problem is, if you actually go any way down its logic, it doesn't really make sense. And what you just said, though, is very sensible. In other words, our consciousness may be testing, playing out, enjoying different perspectives. But that's not what the parallel worlds interpretation said. The parallel worlds interpretation was that every quantum choice point buds off another universe. So it's not just, it's literally infinite versions of not just you and me, but infinite versions of every atom. So each atom forms another universe. So I'd like to come back because
well, do you know my point of mentioning that?
It's a choice point, which is far more important.
Well, it is, but my point of mentioning that is, that's maybe where deja vu comes from. So, when I've been here, done this before, where does that come from? Is there another aspect of yourself you're picking up that's done it? Or have I, is there something else going on? And when sometimes we put something down and it disappears, we think it has, we hope it has, and you're like, well, is that the local, is that mum from the other side just doing that? Or is that you have changed something about your reality and from the perspective where you was at, and you've crossed over to another dimension and you don't even know you've moved over. And so when they say in the spiritual terms, we're talking about a new earth coming in, well, it's for people that are going to think different. They're going to move over to some other reality where you'll not know you've gone over, but it's it's not quite the same as what the reality you've left, where there are big issues going on. I don't know, I'm just putting that out there. What does it really matter in what we're talking about? Well, you're talking about holographic, the holographic nature of the universe. I'm what if?
Absolutely. I think the difference is, and I think the speculation's great and fun and all the rest of it. What I've tried to do, though, in the book is to provide as best I can the level of evidence across many, many different fields of science and all scales of existence. Because however wonderful our own spiritual experiences are, I suppose what we do have, I presume you'll agree, but you may not, is that we have consensual reality.
Of course. We
have a consensual reality that we are having some form of incarnate experience within a universe that looks as though it began 13.8 billion years ago with the flow of time and the expansion of space. And what we're seeing now with science is that it's very much converging on a view that appearance is indeed consensual, but it is an appearance of construction, a co-creation of cosmic consciousness. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and as you say, it's an appearance. So let's just go into obviously your book title, the Cosmic Hologram. Why did you title it that title then? Just so we're fully with you on that as well.
Because with the study of black holes, it was clear that what we look at as information, or the information content of a system, is actually proportional to a two-dimensional rather than three-dimensional reality. So the convergence of cosmological ideas is that our universe is manifested as a hologram. And I wanted to differentiate between the holograms of Princess Leia and all the rest of it from the cosmic hologram, which is the way our universe appears to be manifested. And the subtitle is In Formation at the Center of Creation, because the other key aspect is the view that it's information, not random data, but patterned, dynamic information that's more fundamental than energy, matter, and space-time. So that's why I titled it as I did.
Right, okay. What about, when you talk about the cosmic hologram, where do you think the decent cases of extraterrestrial sightings come into that? The idea that we are not the only life force in this known universe, and even to the sense that some people have said that these are interdimensional beings coming from other versions of multiverses, and they are able to travel through or bleed through.
Sure. In terms of energy matter, our universe is closed, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get universal conservation of energy matter. Quantum physics wouldn't work in the way it does. But that's not to say there isn't a consciousness that doesn't actually, become physicalized, of course. I mean, that's what, your communications are about, my communications are about, many others. It's what spiritual traditions are all about.
So just sticking on that theme, so you would say that maybe if people are suggesting that, some of these unidentified crafts are interdimensional, they've come interdimensionally, you would say, well, that's probably, by the science as we know it, impossible to do.
No, not necessarily. No, I'm not saying, actually.
Okay. Yep. So it could be possible that if there was an advanced civilization, it's possibly coming here. But then again, it could be part of the cosmic universe, couldn't it? The cosmic hologram, and it may not be what we think it is.
Absolutely. Just
to give us the idea that we are. Well, whatever idea it would be given us, maybe it's to give people the idea of their first glimpse of spirituality because in this UFO realm, as I see it, it's all turning to consciousness a little bit more now, and people are going from the nuts and bolts over to the spiritual side a lot more. And if it's doing that, that's fantastic. Just to be able to give themselves their empowerment back of what they potentially may be. What about the nature of the soul for understanding for yourself then? I mean, when people use the word "I'm a soul having a human experience," would you be able to term that in a different way with your understanding?
No, I'd be very comfortable with that perspective. I think we can get caught up on very prescriptive definitions, and I'm a sort of a broad church perspective. I'm a broad church gal myself. I'm very much more interested in the direct experience of consciousness and multi-level consciousness and awareness. But I do describe our universe, given that everything is mind and cosmic mind. This idea of our universe as a finite thought form in the mind of the cosmos or the mind of God. Then to describe our universe as a universe soul, of which we're microcosmic souls, individuated souls, holographically experiencing its manifest reality, I think is fine. In fact, we have a wonderful theme song for the book that was composed by a lovely musician, Kristen Hoffman, called Universe Soul.
Oh, beautiful. That's beautiful. And is that available on your website?
The link's available on my website, and it goes to Kristen's, but yes.
And your website is?
JudeCurrivan.com.
Okay, well, that's been coming up on the screen along with your book as well. Okay, we're 40 minutes in here. How it's gone so quick. Okay, so with the, regardless what the news tells us, is the state of reality out there. There is still tensions out there right now, and why do you think in this cosmic hologram, if I'm okay to call it that, right? Why did we choose to not remember that we're all connected, for us to have these issues on this planet that we have right now with each other?
It's a very good question, and I don't know the answer to it. What I would say is that if you ask any actor which parts he enjoys most, he always enjoys the intense ones, the villains, the whatever. And, I think we have, as we've explored the beauty, as we've explored the interest, the excitement, the intensity of what it is to be human, to really embody that intensity, it sort of comes with the deal that we see ourselves as separate. Because if I see myself in you, somehow that commonality brings us together, but it's somehow the perception of separateness that's part of the adventure, the game, whatever it may be. I just think we've stretched it too far. We've taken it too far, and we've seen ourselves not just separate from each other, but separate from our planetary home. So we've treated Earth, we've treated our Mother Earth appallingly, we've treated each other badly, but we've also treated ourselves with enormous love as well. It's both of and. But we've come to a point, I think, collectively, where our behaviours are unsustainable and dysfunctional, and we now need to return to that.
Why should we return if this is a planet where, or an understanding where I can be this, you can be that, and we'll have a soul agreement to do that? Why? And we can just go down that slide with free will. No one's above us saying no. They're more like saying, go on, that's up to you, but here's the warnings, but go on, do it. Why are we allowed just to come down the slide of consciousness into this physicality without... I don't know, I just don't... When is the change going to happen? I know some people... I could have been on an interview yesterday and they'd have told me, Kevin, the change is happening now, you're just not seeing it with the eyes that you've got right now. But, maybe it is, and it's just not quick enough. But, is that what the soul really wants? Are there souls out there that are switched off from the idea that they're a soul having a human experience, and then why should they go to that thinking anyway, right? I don't see enough people. I was in the dentist yesterday, and there's someone saying, my friend, was going to get in a car the other day, but she didn't, and if she had done, she would have been in an accident, but something told her. But I wonder what that is, and I really wanted to say something, but I couldn't. And the other person was like, yeah, it's just good luck in it. I'm like, oh, that's how weak we are, innit?
Well, you could have said something.
I could have done,
but you didn't. You chose not to.
No.
Well, I think the point is that, let me take us back to our collective, because we're all obviously individuated, but we also have a collective psyche. And it seems to me that our collective psyche has gone round the circle a number of times in the way that we see each other as separate, and we see the world as separate, and all the rest of it. And that has led to dysfunctional behaviours, which has led to all the issues that we're facing. I myself also realise that when you get a complex system that goes around a particular, what's called an attractor, and it becomes unsustainable, then it starts to fall apart. The boundaries cannot hold. But what then happens is that one of two things: either it breaks down into chaos, or it breaks through to a higher level of coherence. And there's something called flickering. And when you get a sort of the possibility of something that's more coherent, whether it's biological evolution or whether it's conscious evolution, it starts to sort of crystallize. The potentiality of it starts to crystallize. But what you get is what's called a flickering. There's enough consciousness emerging from the old that starts to jump to this possibility of the new, but then it falls back. And if there's a tipping point, then the shift can happen. If there isn't the tipping point, then the old falls away into chaos. So I don't know whether we're at the tipping point. I feel we're close, and I feel more and more people are making that jump. But there's a lot of the old sustainable, unsustainable paradigm trying to hold on because of its vested interests of the folks that are still playing it out. So I think that's where we're at the moment. We're in this sort of flickering of what I call the flicker of hope that takes us from the sinking ship to something much, much more coherent and better. And for me, that's what conscious evolution is about. I don't know whether we'll make it or not. I hope, and everything I do is to support us making that leap and empower folks to make that leap in every way possible. But that's where we're at the moment, and it really is break down or break through. And, you know, if we break down, then it'll be our choices that will have caused that breakdown.
You know what keeps coming to me recently is that there's another framework of reality that's not been given to us yet that we're not aware of, but it's there, but we're hidden it from ourselves. It could be there if we wanted to have a look into it, whatever that framework is, and it could hold some answers that we're not aware of.
Sure, but you know, you say some answers we're not aware of. We are actually aware of a lot. We know that when we hurt, you know, when we fight, we hurt each other, we hurt ourselves. You know, we know stuff. We may not want to know it, but we do know stuff. And I'm not sure that, you know, we need new answers. We need new eyes. It's about looking in a different way rather, you know, I think it was Marcel Proust said the journey of discovery isn't about finding new lands, it's seeing with new eyes. So maybe that's what we need to do.
Well, that could, but it ain't worked yet, and I know I sound I know I don't want, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm just saying what we know. Could we truck it all away to make up a new truth that would be better than the truths that we've got? Are the truths that we've got right now serving us?
For me, the new vision is simple. It's to realise that we're not separate. We are unique, but we're not separate. It's not that reality is an illusion, but the separation of its appearance is the illusion. If we wake up and understand that not just each of us are intimately interconnected, but the whole universe is so, and that we are microcosmic co-creators of its realities. We can choose to co-create mayhem, or we can fall into the appearance of separation and fall into fear, or we can actually come together and leap into love. And that's my sense of it. And we can choose that. We can even act as if that's what our choices are, and see what a difference it makes in our everyday lives when we're kind to each other, when we're joyous with each other. And most folks are most of the time.
Well, I think one universal truth that always comes to me in the interviews and through the work that I've done myself, or on myself, and I'm still working on myself, I ain't perfect, but it is, love is the only answer in most situations.
It's it.
Yeah.
It's it.
But if that was it, why the hell have we gone through all this just to find that out?
Maybe as very curious spiritual beings, we wanted to see how far we could pull the elastic before it pings back. I don't know. There's many. We could do another hour on all of this.
I know, because I think to myself, well, what if when I go home, whatever that means to me right now, because that's shifting all the time, whatever go home means, right? But whatever that means, right? And actually, someone says to me or something, or I say to myself, nah, it wasn't actually none of that. It was actually this, but this wasn't apparent, whatever this is. We just thought it was that. But that got us to where we are now, but we could have gone further if we wanted to, but we chose to just say, don't want to do it. I want to keep to this truth. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just saying.
No, I appreciate you not, and that may be it. Whatever.
The nothingness. I know, right?
Well, it's more than that. I feel I chose to be here as you chose to be here.
Yeah.
And I feel, part of my being here is to empower folks to
Absolutely.
Appreciate that far more than they might have thought they were.
Yes.
And that at this moment in our human journey, I feel we do have an opportunity
Yes.
to come together and take this leap into love, actually take these steps of not just biological evolution,
Yes.
but evolution in our consciousness.
Absolutely, and I'm not here to take away your work or anyone's work.
No,
Your work will be timeless, because it just will be, and so will other people's. You know that when people come across your work, that's the level that they're at, which is quite a high level, and that's just what they need at that time, and it will always work for them. I'm just nudging and prodding the beast of, well, what if, and it's what you know, and this idea of trying to work out things that my tiny brain just won't let me work out. So so bringing it back to love, right?
absolutely.
On the interview,
I mean, I wrote an article called What If, What Then? But the article's What If was, what if we came to understand and experience and embody unity awareness? You know, what then?
and what if, after doing this documentary of looking deep, the answer really was just right now, because if it's so illusionary, not okay, don't it's so not what it's so I've stopped myself there. It's so not wanting to be discovered. It's so not wanting to know you to know it, that anything more than what you know or what you're being told. It doesn't want you to know. You didn't want you to know, because you were leaving that to some other time and space. That all there is just to get on with now. But I just get restless. Okay, maybe that will be the answer. Maybe it will. Maybe.
Maybe you've got an amazing opportunity to show up now and bring your incredible gifts to humanity to help that leap into love. And maybe that's enough for now.
Yeah, it'll probably burn me out of doing it anyway. So yeah, absolutely. Well, I've really enjoyed this interview, Jude, and okay, so people can go to your website for more information. We've been putting your website and your books as well, because obviously they've done more than one book, and there's ways to get in contact with you on that website as well if people wish to do so.
Sure.
What would you say is the most important message of your book, even though we may have covered it, but just to say finally?
The consciousness isn't something we have, it's what we and the whole world are, and that we are microcosmic, individuated consciousness of our universe and the cosmos. That when we can understand and experience and embody such unity awareness, we can be more uniquely me than perhaps we've ever felt we are, and we can come together to celebrate the diversity of the we within the oneness of all that is.
And keep grounded in doing that as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because
one of the things I say is it's actually experience the ordinary in the extraordinary, and experience the extraordinary in the ordinary.
One foot in this realm, one foot in the spiritual, not both in the other, or one in the yeah. Just keep it balanced. Yeah. I so agree with that, and thank you for keeping me kind of grounded in this interview and bringing it back to the groundedness of now, because I like it's just all we have right now, and being here now. Well, we didn't want to be anywhere else, did we? But here right now. So yeah, absolutely. Well, much love, and thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm sure our paths will cross soon, so thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Kevin, and much love to you and for everyone who's going to be listening and watching to this.